Today we continue our series on land acquisition and how to avoid or reduce litigation associated with land ownership. We promise to bring you excerpt of my interaction with the Principal Administrative Officer of the Lands Commission, Timothy Anyidoho, on steps to take if you find a land that you're interested in. We'll start with how to authenticate ownership of pieces of land that you'll find. Before we take your questions and solicit the answers for you, take a look at my conversation with the Principal Administrative Officer, showing me around as far as the processes involved in land registration is concerned. Land litigation appears to be a phenomenon that's killing people rather rapidly lately. So assuming you find a land you are interested, what do you do? Those are the steps I'm going to take you through here at the Lands Commission. I'm going to be joined by the Principal Administrative Officer, Timothy Anyidoho at the Lands Commission, and he joins me here. He's going to take us through the process so you at home can follow through as well. Come with us.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, Timothy. We'll just have you take us through the entire process.
Okay.
What is done at what point, so people can follow.
Okay, thank you.
So after you. All right, so let's go.
Okay, so thank you and welcome. So we'll start first from this side, so our left side.
So this is assuming I've seen a land and I'm interested.
Okay.
So I come, and this is where I come first.
So you come first to what we call the queuing system.
Okay.
It will tell you what you want to do, and then you can just press the service you're coming.
Okay. So here I see collection, bulk stamping, PVLMD
searches, services and searches.
Inquiry, stamping, yes. Registration, regional number, and plan approval after payments. What is PVLMD services?
You know, the Lands Commission has 4 divisions. So PVLMD is just one of the divisions. That's the Public Invested Land Management Division.
Okay.
So, and it is stroke searches. So you can do searches also with the Land Registration Division. Okay. So it's not only PVLMD searches.
And that's if I have seen a land and I want to find out that whether or not it belongs to somebody.
Yes, please. So this is where. So you either do it with PVLMD or you can do it with Land Registration Division, but that will fall under the general heading of searches.
Okay. So right now, what am I doing? Assuming I'm now
coming to do search.
A search.
Yes.
Okay. So when I come, I click on that one, and then I get a ticket.
Yes.
Okay. So I have my ticket. What do I do next?
Okay. So you go to any of these. So you find out that we've labeled each section and stamping documents. So you come to there are 2 areas where you would have the searches. So you have it here.
Searches and state land.
Searches and state land, yes.
So when you say searches, you're referring to general
searches, yes. Okay. And state land also, because public invested land.
Okay, so I come here and then I give my documents.
So what you would give to the person will be what we call a site plan.
A site plan?
Yes, so it will look like this.
Okay.
And this is what we were discussing yesterday.
This is the plan that you must get from those who sold the land to you?
Yes, please.
And you get this after you have paid for the land and everything?
No. And that's a correction I must make.
Please.
This should precede any form of transaction. You should have received this, done your search before you enter into the transaction. What often happens is that this would have been, the person would have completed the transaction, bought it, got what we call an indenture before he's coming to do the search. By that time, you would have committed yourself to the transaction already.
So if I see a land and I'm interested,
yes,
I should ask for
a site plan.
A site plan.
First. That is
Would they give that to me without paying anything?
Often we make an analogy of if you are going to buy a car, for instance. Don't you ask for the car papers first?
Well,
because you want to be confident.
But they won't give the car papers to you. They will.
So you can do a search at BBLA. No, but you should be able to get access to that paper. So don't run a search at BBLA before you can purchase. What if you purchase and after you've purchased, it's not the person who has the capacity to go?
Is there any legal instrument that binds people to provide this document to everybody who needs to buy land?
It is a contractual. Mind you, when you are buying land, it's contract between 2 parties. So you, the person purchasing, you have to do your due diligence. And how do you do that? You can only do that when you have a description of that site. And you use that site as a basis of doing your due diligence before you can purchase. What is happening that more often than not in Ghana, we've reversed the process. You would have entered, seen the land, liked it, got a document from the person. So with that document, you are now coming to us for registration. Then the problem begins. Because by the time you would have committed resources to that, and therefore if problems start arising, you, the buyer, and the seller will start having, oh, it's for me, it's not for me. Yet the Lands Commission searches something else. Okay, I'll change it for you. Okay, you go and come tomorrow. Then somebody else will appear on the side, he sold it to me. So that's where the complexity really begins.
Okay.
So this is very critical that we have this drummed up into people's minds.
Okay.
More often than not, this is not that.
But nobody knows whether this, I mean, there is no strict regulations as to whether or not the person giving you this must have taken money or not.
No. So as I say, I have interest in your land. But what happens practically is that most times before people part with this, they often demand some money. But the good thing to do is, because at that time you are doing due diligence, what if it's not for him? What then happens
so
to the money?
ideally you shouldn't pay.
Ideally, but as I'm saying, it's a demand, or it's a seller's market mostly. So
right.
Usually they ask for something little to get this done. But I've seen many places where if they are organized, they have all these their documents. It's not difficult to give this to you to run your search.
Okay. So we're still here at the Lands Commission. We're looking at the process. They're taking us through the process of the first steps you need to take if you find a land and you're interested in. And we've looked at what you do at the beginning. There are options for you to choose. What is it that you want to do? We've chosen the option of searching because we've seen the land and we're following up to find out whether or not it's worth buying. Now you come here, searches and state land, and you provide this document that he talks about. From here, where do you go?
So you would have then giving them your details. You have an on-site bank, as you can see. We are serviced by Merchant Investment UMB Bank. Yes.
Okay.
So you go and make some payment with them, and they give you receipts. So it's typically
for the search. How much do you have to pay for a search?
It's 55 for the first acre and 10 cedis for subsequent acres.
Okay, that's not very expensive. I mean, I'm sure those who are ready to buy a land will be able to afford that.
You are far too kind. So that will be the financial implications. After you do the payments, you will come back
to searches and state land.
Yes, and they'll complete the process for you. We'll take some details, the names of the person doing the search. The name.
I mean, this is someone's document,
yes,
so of course, as much as possible, we don't want it.
Yes, so it's just random. So there'll be name, the job number, what we call, the person requesting. And critical to us is you now see that there's a date written down here, which gives you an estimated time of when you should expect to hear from us. So we are holding ourselves accountable by the time limit.
That's if you live by it, because you can still have the time and the date on the paper and still not live.
Yes, but so let's be candid. There are many people who even receive it even before the time. There are a few people who might receive it after the time because of some difficulty in retrieving some information. So we've moved from an era where we didn't used to give you any time limit at all to an era where now we are holding ourselves accountable by some time limit.
Giving you a time limit, so that when you come at least you can make a demand.
Which is good. And then when you submit this, you get a text on your phone that you've submitted it. And we have some numbers here. The numbers
I think I should have brought a land. I should have brought a document so I can get the text message so I can be sure. Well, as you can see, I don't have a land, to test the system with. But at least these are the processes we saw.
So then you get some text acknowledging the receipt. And then when it's complete, you're supposed to also receive a text that is complete.
So you can come to the office.
Yes, please. And there's a number also on it that you can call. The number comes directly to this place. Because they listen at 24 hours. It works when we are at work. So it works from 8 to about.
And is this call center monitored? Like those who are talking to people who are calling, are they monitored?
Yes. What we did is when we came here, we did some customer service training. So when you can call, if you can call and give us your job number, we can then key in the conference. So now we're done the search. We're done. We're satisfied that this is a good land. We want to buy it. At the moment, you've paid.
So we just have to wait.
So you have to wait till the completion. That's what is done at what we call the back office. So, and the reason why we need to look at all the other books here is that if you didn't come to do a search and say you're coming to register, this is the same place you come to.
If you didn't do a search.
No, if assuming you had your documents, you have done your search already. Or you have your indenture. You want to register.
This is still where
you come.
What do you do here if you have already registered?
So you can see land title registration. You can see stamp duty on one of of the stamp duty is the tax you pay before you begin registration, so you can see that stamp.
So stamping landed documents.
Yes,
You go there, you get a stamp.
Yes, you also submit like you do with this one. Submit your documents. Some assessments are done. You get a
You have a date
to
come back for it.
Yes.
And if you're doing title registration, it's the same
thing.
The same
You come back,
process.
they'll examine your documents. You buy a form.
Okay, so this office, what's the name of this office?
So the Client Service and Access Unit.
The Client Service and Access Unit. So once you come to the Client Service and Access Unit, what else do you do?
So here you come to pick your document also. If we have completed a document for you, as you saw on the queuing system, you still come in, you press collection, because you have received some notification, and then you just join the queue when it's ready. The ladies there will take care of it.
Take us to the next step then.
So now we've finished, we've gone through whatever we've done here. Yes. And then we now go to what we call the back office, where the actual work.
The back office, where the actual work happens.
Is done.
Okay, well, let's go and have a look at where the actual work is and what actually happens there. Let me just remind you that we're still here at the Lands Commission. We're talking to the Principal Land Administrative Officer. We're just trying to understand the processes that you have to go through if you find a land interested and you want to purchase it.
Typically, I'm showing you this because this is a completed land title certificate, because we had a discussion about it. So this is a completed.
So this is land certificate.
Yes.
So this, if you have this, it means what?
You have completed your registration process.
The land is for you.
Well, yes, you have. The government has guaranteed that parcel of land is yours. And yesterday we spoke also about
the
title and then deeds registry.
So please take us through it
So
again.
this is the title. This is what you will get in Accra, parts of Kumasi, in parts of Winneba, and in Saruku in the northern region.
Okay.
But in other regions, you won't get this.
Okay. Because this is still on pilot basis.
Yes, on pilot basis. In other regions, you still have registered, but what you get is your deed. So, boss, excuse me, just one copy of this. So you submit this document, which will be a transaction in the other regions.
Okay.
You end up getting this same document back, but this document will now have some stamps behind them and all that. So that's the difference. You are getting one certificate form like this.
In effect, these both documents you're holding signifies that someone owns the land.
Yes, and the person is coming to us.
But
Somebody
this
has
is
entered
a
the transaction.
different dispensation.
So this is how this one starts. It starts with this and ends this way. In the title registration regions, in the other regions, it starts with this and ends with
that.
But still, you would have done some registration.
I understand that. I hope my viewers understand this as well. So this is it. You are going to show us something.
So this is a typical land title certificate, as you can see, with the bows, because it's somebody's personal thing. I'll just do. So you indicate, you can focus on the signature of the registrar. Here would have indicated what the terms of that transaction is, and then this is the plan. The plan that you would have done a search on will now transform to this during the registration process, and then ultimately this document, as I said, you would have started with this, but it would then be inserted, because government is not now giving you anything. What they are doing is they are affirming what's going on.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next office where the real work, the real action is
done.
So this place is what?
So this is the Land Title Registration Division.
Okay. Land Title Registration Division.
Yes, so it's one of the divisions. Ultimately, this is the division that produces the land title, as we said.
Okay.
What we showed you in the collection.
All right. So, okay. So do tell us what this place is and what is happening here.
Okay, so this is the Land Title Registration Division. This is the records. This is where they retrieve information for completion of certificates and also for searches. Okay. Because your emphasis was on searches. So, so he has, as you can see, he has some documents in front of him. So if you were to do a search and bring a site plan, he looks on that, he keys in some things on his computer. So it zooms him in to where the information he needs is. And you now look up and go to what we call the attribute data, whether there's any registration there or not. He relies on that and does a report for other officers to look at to proceed with the process.
Is this the digitization you refer to?
Yes, so typically we'll show you what it used to be in the past. So please, if you could come with us. It used to be, as you see here, on sheets like this.
Okay, as big as this?
Yes, so here you see small lots on them.
Yes.
So there are numbers there. So those numbers will lead you to a certain book.
Okay.
And the book will give you the information that you need on the registration. This is the old school of doing it.
All right.
Now, in Maxwell's place, you can see he has a computer in front of him.
Okay, so we have moved from this, which happens to be the old system.
You
scan it.
This data.
The paper you showed us would have been what you saw, but now it's scanned on the computer, and then you get to work on the computer.
So you key in your coordinates, it pops out that sheet.
And what it also means is that you have the information stored in a digital space.
Yes,
so it's not
better.
hard copy.
It's not hard copy.
So even if the hard copy gets burned,
here you panic and all those things, we have backups.
You don't need to panic.
No, you don't need to panic. We'll have backups. Our intention is not for them to get burned.
To get burned. I mean, hopefully not. But
it's better
so nobody can make an excuse and say they got burned because there is a digital backup system.
Yes.
Very well. So we follow you to the next place. So we'll follow you to the next step, which I presume is the final step.
Yes, so we've talked about essentially most things that happen here.
All right. Okay. What's the difference between the system you showed us earlier and this one?
So that other one, they work partially in paper. You get printed. Here they work with templates. So like for the title certificates, they would have a template. It picks up all the attribute data you need. It fills the form. They print it out for you. Then you need people to physically type some sections of this, which you will not do.
You will not do here.
In this environment.
And you say that this is where eventually the Lands Commission wants to go.
Yes.
What does that even mean?
So that means that we work with less paper, less time will be spent, and therefore we can deliver in a quicker time.
All right, so that gives you an idea of the processes that you have to go through should you find a land that you're interested in. I have the Principal Administrative Officer of the Lands Commission, Timothy Anyidoho, here. He's joining me in the studio. So you can send your questions to WhatsApp number 050-564-6330. That's 050-564-6330, the number on your screen. And as we go along, we will also open our phone line so you can give us a call and let us know what the challenges are, what questions you have that you can take to the Lands Commission yourself. We'll have them answered here. Timothy, it's good to have you. And thank you very much for taking us through that process there. We couldn't finish up the part about the completely digitized center. Do you want to tell us a bit more about it whilst we take the questions?
Well, yes. So that's what we call the Ghana Enterprise Land Information System.
Okay.
It's a system that has been developed to ensure that we can do registration entirely in a digital environment. It means that the information we have will all be in a digital space. When you bring an application, we can then process the application through a digital environment.
So everything is on the computer.
Yes.
And I remember asking you why, I mean, this is not widespread, and you said that this was a pilot.
It's a pilot, yes. It was a
so
pilot.
where does the pilot cover?
The pilot is 10%, so 10% of the records that we have.
Okay.
In Accra, we started, and in some regions also, we chose Eastern region as one of them. So we picked the 10%.
And I also remember putting it to you, that could it be that this 10% is only covering VVIPs and VIPs and people in position, power, etc., or does it cover ordinary people like myself and my viewers?
And I explained and I put it back to you that this covers 10% of selected areas. The 10% involves selected areas.
Okay.
So it's not people; it's selected areas. So once you fall within that area, you're a VVIP.
Okay, so let's know the areas so that people will at least have an idea.
I said areas around Pram, Dawenya area, some selected areas, cantonments, through Adabraka, and a few areas.
Why are you laughing? Is it because cantonments? Because we know the kind of people who live in cantonments.
No, well, the choice of the areas was supposed to span over government areas, some private areas, two land areas. That's how you do a pilot. Okay. So there's an even spread.
Even spread.
Yes.
Okay. So Pram, Dawenya, cantonments, Adabraka.
These are selected portions within. I don't want it to be taken as a general that everywhere in Dawenya falls.
So not everywhere.
No, there are areas where we've chosen that.
Okay. All right. Well, along the line, if you have any questions about, there is a digitized system of land documentation processing that goes on at the Lands Commission. So if you have any questions about that as well, like he's saying, it is 10% of the total workload.
Yes.
Correct. So it's 10%.
Yes.
Whether or not you fall in the 10% is if you fall within the areas mentioned, etc. So it includes Pram, Dawenya, Cantonment at Abraka. So I have a couple of questions that we're going to go through those questions. If you have your questions, send them through and Timothy will help you answer them. So Timothy, this one says, I want to find out how long it takes to register a land in Ghana.
Yes. That's the question I expected to hear first.
Okay.
Well, by our own internal, some analysis we had done, depending on which area you are in, indeed, deed registration areas cut down to about a month and a half. Okay. In title registration areas, we give time as long as 6 months. But there's a caveat to that. This government is very big on us going 1 month for deeds and 14 days, 1 month for title and 14 days for deeds.
1 month for title
and then 14 days for deeds.
Okay, and the title, yes, he was just explaining to me in that video, if you haven't seen, is sort of the upgraded system.
That's a newer law that came in 1986.
Okay.
One that was in 1962.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question. This question now says, when you have already bought a land where only receipt is given and the landowners did not register the land, what is the process of getting all that is needed to get valid land documents?
Yes, so we explained that the receipt will not be sufficient. What you will need is a contract, what we probably call an indenture or some document covering the land with a site plan in it. That would signify that land transaction. Then the parties would execute it, and then you can come and pursue your registration. The receipt on its own will not be sufficient because it will not satisfy all the requirements by law that is required for registration.
So then what do you do?
So you will need an indenture from the one granting, which will describe the land, talk about the parties, talk about the term. There are certain things that law prescribes, our conveyancing decree, our registration laws require you to have those documents.
And if the person is, for example, no longer alive, what do you do?
That's where the difficulty comes. But when people die, luckily for us, we have successors, we have people who will hold their land that they got it by will or interstate, those things. Those people can then act maybe on behalf of the deceased.
So in that case, if you're buying a land, do not just take a receipt.
No, that will not be sufficient.
It's not enough.
It will not be sufficient.
You need an indenture.
You need that.
Well, so this is some sort of advice for you. Yes. You do not just buy a land and say, I got a receipt and that's it. It is not enough for you to claim ownership of that land. This one says, I am... First, I think he sent a message the last time we had a conversation. It says, can I register my land in any land title office? How much does it cost to register a land? And then he also says, today I am in Kumasi. Where can I locate your office for inquiries?
So our office is in Edum. Okay. If you know where the post office is in Kumasi, it's easy to find. It stands out. In fact, it's one of our most ultra-modern offices now. So
in Kumasi.
In Kumasi, yes.
Yeah, so is there any specific
near the post office, where the courts are?
Okay.
Kumasi's,
so if you're in Kumasi, you have any inquiries, about land acquisition, go to Edum, the post office there, the land office, or the courts.
Yes, it's just in and around the same place.
Okay, so where the courts are in Edum, post office, courts, there you can find the Lands Commission. And do you just walk in and anybody will attend to you?
The Kumasi office has. In fact, it's the most ultra-modern. It's something that was built not so long ago. So it has a client's area where you can walk in.
So you have to go to the client
service area, which is also at the bottom. You go there, and if you have inquiries, people walk in every time with all kinds of inquiries.
Okay. So Kumasi, Edum, near the courts or the post office, you go to the client service, you make inquiries there. Nasir is asking for Tamale. Yes. Where your office is in Tamale. So
Tamale is also it's in Tamale proper. I'm trying to find the exact location.
Okay.
But it's also in the Tamale township. It's easy to find, in fact.
Okay.
Quite easy to find.
Okay. Do give it a thought. Maybe you remember where exactly to find it in Tamale.
Yes, please.
Okay. This one says, I bought a land and sold it to another person, and they have relocated me to a new place, and they are telling me to give the money for the documents for the new land. Please, what should I do, Timothy?
So what he's trying to that's so personal, isn't it?
Yes.
So what he's trying to do is he's just asking, sometimes I explained that you buy a land, maybe you've not run your search properly, you find out later on that it's for somebody else.
Yeah.
Or the landowner comes and says, I found out that same parcel of land, I gave it to Mr. Y. So you come back and they do not have to replace or give you a new site plan. They have a new site plan covering a new land. That necessarily would affect the document that they give to you because the description of the site is in the document. So they'll need to give you a new set of deed to cover the new land. So
and that's it.
And now you can use that as a
okay. I hope that your question has been answered. This one is talking about the process. It says, I want to find out the process and how much is involved if I want to get a deed for a land I already own.
Yes, so he owns it already.
Yes.
So the deed will be usually procured from the person selling, because he is giving you something on his terms. And GBA fees, in fact, has to be done by a lawyer. Okay. So the GBA fees covers that. Usually what people do is that they ignore the professional bits and want to sit in some tree and see some secretary, somebody who based on experience. There's a big risk in running that. So usually landowners have the lawyers who work for them, and I want to be particularly emphasize this, that when a professional does the right questions, the narrative which is recited, all those things are covered. But when you go to somebody, there's a template, he might do it and miss some essential bits. That might
so GBA, Ghana Bar Association,
has a scale of fees for preparing land. Land.
So you need to find a lawyer.
Yes.
And then you let them go through the system for you, and then you register.
Yes.
So in all, can you give us a rough estimate of how much?
My emphasis will be on lands commission's fees, because the lawyer would then have prepared the indenture for you. You'd have got a surveyor to do the survey for you. The survey fees. The reason why we are not specific, and I'll try to say something that's maybe just an average fee.
But you can give us an average
800 to 1,000.
So between 800 to 1,000.
Yes, what the surveyors do is that they charge based on distances, based on the side of land, maybe based on the corners of the land. So that's always very careful. But I'm just giving estimates that may be an average, regular, not too far away. So people should not take it as cast in stone. Then you come and you go to the High Court to do an oath. Usually the fees will be with the High Court. They have the fees there, so it's really easy to get that sorted out.
Again, do we have an average?
Oh, well, say some 200, 300. The courts is court fees. So and they go there and they get the oath done, and then they come and do the stamp duty. The Stamp Duty Act prescribes. So usually it's a percentage of the land value.
Wow.
Yes, well, if it's an assignment, if it's a fresh lease, the law allows for some nominal fee to be charged. So it can be 1%, can be 0.5 if it's a mortgage. So the fees are spelled out by law. Then you come for the registration proper. And here again, there will be some fees that will be charged you for.
I think that I've seen a lot of people ask the same question, and so I think we'll come back to it, because it looks like a lot. So there is the GBA fees, you know, that's
for
getting the documents. So getting a lawyer to do so, you need a surveyor to look at it, the surveyor to do the site plan. Then you need to do the oath bit, which is the a percentage. No,
the oath is different. The oath is what you do at the High Court, but the stamp duty. The stamp duty is
stamp duty. Okay, well, it'll take me a while to get this. So there is a GBA surveyor's GBA cost, surveyor cost, the oath cost, and then the stamping of which is a percentage of the land value. Sounds like a lot before you do the registration. I think we will go through it, you know, in bits as we go along, because we'll be doing this in the next couple of weeks as well. How much? So this person is asking. I don't know if you'll be able to speak to it about how much it costs in total if you want to register a land. So I think
so if you look at the breakdown top to bottom, the reason why we are very, very sketchy is saying, okay, so it costs you 2,000 or 5,000 because the surveyor may charge more because of the distance. It's possible that the stamp duty, and the stamp duty, if we say 1%, is what is assessed. So your land in cantonments 1% is not the same as mine in my village, for instance. So depending on where it's located and the land values, that's what influences the prices.
The prices.
Yes, but our fees are guided by law or by an act of parliament. So usually they are.
And for most of the questions that are coming, everybody wants to know the cost involved.
Yes.
So I think that going along, we should be able to look at the cost involved. So this person is asking, do we have the land registration offices in all the regions? He's texting from Abo.
Yes, so in Volta region we have, in every region of this country we have, barring the new regions that are being created. However, we even have capacity in the old regions to be able to take care of them until we establish full offices in those regions. So every region has an office for registration, and in some regions, like in the western region, where we have sub-offices in Takwa, in the former northern region, where we have offices in Savulugu, we have satellite offices in our attempt to extend registration closer to the people. Okay,
so again, so I'm seeing a trend of questions. This gentleman is Sadiq. He's asking us to summarize the processes he has to go through to register his land fully.
Okay.
And that's what we
Yes, so what we're talking
right?
is preparation and going through the registration process. So if he wants to go fully, once he has what we call the indenture with the site plan, he can now come to land, do the oath, then come and pay for the stamp duty, and then submit for registration. Okay. Those are the key processes. The key processes. Yes.
Okay. So he says, my question is, can you have different search results from the Land Commission and different from the land title?
Yes. So I'll have to do a little bit of explanation. Before Act 767, which was passed in 2008, what we call the Land Registration Division of the Lands Commission it's a department on its own. So it's called Land Title Registry. And what was PVLM, your public invested land, was called the SWA Lands Commission. So there were different departments, so they kept records differently. So with the merger with the Act 7, so that merged all of us into one. What the Lands Commission is doing now is to merge the records into one. That has not been fully done. So what people do is that in order to be sure that they've covered all their bases, they do a search at what was the SWA Lands Commission, which used to do some registration, and then do at the title registry. But as time has gone on, the whole idea, like we talked about the Ghana Enterprise Land Information System, is sort of merging all that records. So one click of the button, you get both records and you can give. But currently, in some cases, you run parallel searches just to be sure.
Would you say that is the best under the circumstances?
Under the circumstances now, but once we keep merging our records, ultimately the commission is quickly looking at having one record because it's now one department. So you can't be going and having two separate information.
Well, we'll have to wrap up, but I hope that most of you have had your questions answered. I think that the trend really has been the cost involved, for future planning around this conversation, and for the Lands Commission as well. I think people are much more interested to find out what it will cost them to be able to fully register their land and the processes. And because of that, most of the people are asking about the location of your offices. So perhaps in your subsequent communications, you want to focus on these areas to help them. But let me just do this quick one. He's asking about stool lands, whether stool lands can be registered. He says, is it true that stool lands cannot be registered? If so, what can we do to properly secure?
So stool lands have to be registered and must be registered and
so
can be registered. It's not true.
So the first question is, it's not true. Stool lands must be registered.
Yes, and in fact, stool land is so precious to this country that in our constitution, we created what we call the Office of Administrator of Stool Lands to deal with the revenue bit of its administration, but Lands Commission still deals with the registration bit of it. So it's much, maybe what his confusion may be in that the constitution is absolutely clear that you can't give a stool land freehold. Freehold means you can't give it to a person perpetually. You can only give the person by a limited time. And the constitution envisaged that land is for us, for the next generation. So it has to be managed. And those who manage it, the stools, manage it in trust for generations to come. So that's why that base.
Interesting. We'll end it here for today. But hopefully, if within the week has already ended. Tomorrow is Friday. So next week we'll come back. I still have a lot of the questions. In fact, today I went back to some of the old questions and then I mixed it up with the new questions that are coming in. So I'll try and locate the questions. If you send them, don't worry. We'll still try and get you some answers. But I hope that you've had a lot of the questions answered. Timothy, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This is really priceless for people who cannot go to the offices to ask.
I want to confirm you're a consultant now.
You should. I'll bring my invoice.
With the way you're going about it.
I'll bring my invoice.
But it's important that you understand. If you understand, you're an advocate. You can tell somebody else that, look, be careful.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, I've been talking to Timothy Anyidoho. He's a principal administrative officer with the Lands Commission. They're trying to answer some of your questions about acquiring a land. You know what it means to have a land, and so acquiring it is also a very important part of the process.